Let's start this off with Luis Arraez, and honestly, I think he's one of the more interesting free agents in a while. Now, with Arraez, you know what you're going to get. Lots of contact and very little strikeouts, but that's pretty much it. In his career, he's at .317 with an OPS of .777, but over the last couple of years, his slugging has dipped under a .400, and because of the lack of total bases, I just wonder what kind of a contract he's going to get, especially since he's averaged just 1 wins above replacement over the last couple of years. Now, with 1 WAR being worth around an average of $9 million per year, I have a hard time imagining him getting over $20 million per year. However, I could see a team out there thinking his game would be better in a hitter-friendly park for lefties, and since he's still only 28 years old, maybe he ends up getting around $15 to $18 million per year. Now, the contract's interesting, but also, which teams would want a hitter like Arraez? Well, like I said, I think he ends up with a team that fits their park well. I think the Reds could be a possibility because they could use more consistent bats, and I think he would fit very well in their park. They're also a smaller market team, so price-wise, I do think that makes sense. I think the Nationals could be an under-the-radar team. It's a good park for lefties, and they do need a first baseman. Jake Burger struggled this year with the Rangers, so maybe Arraez could help out with their offense, which was up and down this year. The Pirates just need bats, period. Sure, a pitcher-friendly park there, but price-wise, maybe that could work for them. There's also the Mariners. They rank near the bottom when it came to contact percentage this year, and Josh Naylor is going to be a free agent, so if he goes elsewhere, maybe Arraez could be an option. Whatever it is, I think his market is going to be very fun to watch. For the next one, I'm going to do a 2-for-1, Ryan Helsley and Devin Williams. Now, both had great track records as closers coming into the year, but in 2025, they both had major up and down years. Now, with Devin Williams, he was the Yankees closer coming into the year after they traded for him, but after he struggled big time, he ended up getting bumped down to a setup role. He did have a couple more opportunities closing out games throughout the year, but eventually they traded for David Bednar, who ended up being their closer. But in the end, he found more success as a setup guy. Overall, he had an ERA at a 4.79, but his metrics still look very good with an ERA of 2.68 and 13 strikeouts per 9. Then there's Ryan Helsley, whose big velo helped him close out a lot of games for the Cardinals over the last few years, but after he got traded to the Mets, he fell off a cliff big time, posting an ERA over 7. So with both these guys, it's going to be very interesting to see which teams are going to ignore the struggles from this past season, along with what contracts they're going to end up getting. Now, because of the down years, are they going to have a tough time finding good contracts, or because of their good track records and metrics, are they going to be able to clear that? I would like to lean more towards the latter, but with any offseason, you just never know. Now, I could definitely see a few teams in the mix for either guy, like the Diamondbacks, Angels, Braves, Tigers, and maybe even the Marlins, who did show some good things this year, because all of those teams ranked in the bottom 10 when it came to relief pitching, Fangraph wins above replacement this season. Since we talked about one Yankee reliever, let's talk about another with Luke Weaver. Now, for a while, Weaver had a very tough time posting an ERA close to a 6 from 2020 to 2022, and he had trouble with both the Mariners and the Reds in 2023 before he found success with the Yankees. He ended up being the closer for them in 2024 and again this year at some points, and because of the recent success, I'm curious to see which teams are going to be interested. Now, I would imagine he would like to stick to the same game plan that's worked with the Yankees up to this point, so teams are going to have to look at that closely. Then again, there's another caveat where maybe he could latch on somewhere as a starter, since he did say he was open to it. Now, to me, if he were to stay in the bullpen, I think staying with the Yankees makes the most sense, because why fix what's not broke? But if he does get an offer out there as a starter like Clay Holmes did with the Mets, that could make things interesting. Let's stick with the pitching and talk about a guy who I had on this list last year, Shane Bieber. He ended up returning to the Guardians for 1 year with an option before he got traded to the Blue Jays, and now he's in a World Series. Crazy how things can go. And hey, if he pitches well in this World Series, he's really going to improve his stock, just like Walker Buehler did last year, closing out the World Series for the Dodgers and pitching pretty well that postseason. Now, the difference with Bieber, though, is he's had way more recent success than Buehler did, especially after getting Tommy John. Now, with Buehler, because he had a lot of struggles, he ended up taking a 1-year deal with the Red Sox, but with Bieber, though, he's had a long track record of success. Now, the question is, what kind of a contract is he going to be looking for? Would he rather get a short-term deal to improve his stock further and then get back out to the market sooner? Or would he rather look for the long-term deal now, since he just turned 30 years old? I think there's an argument for either, and if he ends up taking a shorter deal after Matthew Boyd did, then that's really going to open up his market for a lot of teams. On to a guy that's been one of the best bats in the game for a few years now, Marcell Ozuna. Now, that does come with a caveat, because his numbers and metrics did come down a bit this year, only hitting .232 with a .755 OPS and 21 home runs. However, he was playing through a hip injury, so so that seemed like that was bothering him throughout the year. It looked like he eventually got over it, but overall, the numbers did take a dip after posting an OPS of 916 from 2023 to 2024. Now, could the Braves bring him back? Sure, because he had a lot of success there, but he's also just about to turn 35, and they're going to be looking to shake things up a bit there to help them bounce back in 2026. Now, because of the recent success, along with just being a DH, I do think there is something left in the tank for at least another year or two, but because of the down year, along with the off-the-field issues he's had in the past, I wonder what his market is going to look like. I imagine he doesn't get anything over 3 years, but because it would be a short-term commitment, I could see teams out there needing a bat being interested. Like I said earlier, the Rangers are looking to bounce back, and they could definitely use another bat in that lineup. The Diamondbacks are also looking to bounce back, and they could use an improvement at DH. The Padres' offense was more middle of the road this year, so maybe there could be something there. And I could even see David Stearns showing some interest in a short-term deal, especially if Pete Alonso goes elsewhere. When it comes to intriguing free agents, I think Cody Bellinger has to be on this list. Now, Bellinger has actually been an intriguing free agent a couple of times over the last few years. Now, remember, not too long ago, he was released by the Dodgers after a lot of struggles and injuries, but because he was a former MVP at a young age still, there was still a lot of intrigue on the market. He eventually signed with the Cubs, where he bounced back in 2023, but because of the recent struggles that he had with the Dodgers, his market didn't fully materialize the way he wanted. He ended up signing a new contract with the Cubs, and then he got traded to the Yankees this past offseason, where he had a solid year this year. Now, since he's averaged an OPS over 800 along with a WRC plus over 120 over the last 3 years, this feels like the time where he's going to get a solid deal. Now, to me, I think returning to the Yankees seems like a no-brainer because it was a great fit both offensively and defensively, but because he's over those struggles from the early 2020s, I wonder how many more teams are going to jump in the mix, especially with his versatility between the outfield and first base. I think about the Phillies, where they could use a bit of a shakeup there, and an improvement over Nick Castellanos out in right field. Now, I've mentioned the Rangers a couple of times, and I think his versatility would fit very well there. Maybe they see him as an upgrade over Adolis Garcia while sharing first base time with Jake Berger, who did have a lot of struggles this year. I've mentioned the Diamondbacks a couple of times as well. Maybe he could be the first baseman there while getting some outfield time, and he is originally from Arizona. Again, he's gotten back on track, and along with his versatility, I think his market's going to be very interesting. Is it just me, or does it feel like anywhere I go lately, I see the same letters over and over again? AI. Now, when it comes to AI for me, I try to use it in ways to help me with day-to-day tasks like planning out my days, coming up with lists, calculating things, and whatever else comes in handy. But recently, though, I've been trying out this new browser called Comet by Perplexity. And honestly, I feel like it's one of the first AI tools I've used that actually helps me instead of just giving me answers. Now, the crazy thing is that it used to cost a couple of $1,000, but right now it's completely free to use with the link below. Just head to the description down below and check it out for yourself. Now, here's what makes Comet different. It's built with something called agentic browsing. That means the AI doesn't just search, it takes action. You'll see this little blue halo light up when Comet's working, and it can do things for you like organize your emails, handle research, or even grab food for you without opening extra tabs. I hate when I have a ton of tabs open, but it's clean, ad-free, and designed to keep you focused, so no bouncing between 10 tabs or fighting through distractions. Now, for me, I use Comet to help run my channel. It helps plan out projects, keeps notes organized, and it makes research a lot easier, and overall it just saves time. So if you want to try it, it's free to download and comes with 30 days of Perplexity Pro. Again, head down to the description below to find the link. Honestly, it's one of the few AI tools that I've actually used that make my workflow a lot smoother. On to a guy currently playing in the World Series, and that's Bichette. Now, remember back last year, we were all thinking the Blue Jays could end up trading him at some point because he was having a down year along with injuries, and here we are a year later, and he's had a great season. Overall, he's bounced back in a big way, hitting .311 with a .357 on base, a .483 on the slugging, a .134 WRC plus, 18 homers. Very solid numbers. Now, you might be thinking, Robbie, those are solid numbers. What's so intriguing about that? He is what he is, a solid player, but I'm more focused on the defense at shortstop, where he posted -13 outs above average this past year, along with below average arm strength. Now, with those kind of metrics, unless he drastically improves something in the offseason, it seems like he could be a better fit at second base moving forward, and that could make his free agency a lot more interesting. Will teams out there be okay with signing him as a shortstop because of the good bat, or would teams rather sign him to play second base? And I would imagine Bichette is going to look to sign as a shortstop because shortstops are more valuable, and and he would get more money. Now, there are some teams out there that could be in the shortstop market. You got the Atlanta Braves, who've ranked near the bottom in the majors at shortstop since Dansby Swanson went to the Cubs. Maybe the Detroit Tigers, since Javier Baez can play other positions, and top prospect Kevin McGonigal can play second base when he comes up. And in fact, Gleyber Torres is going to be a free agent as well. So Bichette, he could work at either short or second base there. So I think the Tigers could be an option as well. Anthony Volpe had a very tough year, both offensively and defensively. So maybe the Yankees see Bichette as a possible upgrade. Maybe even a surprise team like the Rays, who I'm very curious about this offseason because they have new ownership, and Bichette is originally from St. Petersburg. There's also the Dodgers, who fans connect Bichette with all the time. So maybe you could do something there with Mookie moving to second base. Now, if a team looked to sign him as a second baseman, I think you could look again at the Dodgers with Mookie staying at second base. And honestly, that would probably be the better move because Mookie was tremendous defensively this year at shortstop. Maybe the Giants if they wanted an upgrade over Casey Schmidt. But in the end, while it didn't seem like it a year ago, I think the Blue Jays make the most sense because he's only just about to turn 28 years old, and there's not really anyone else banging on the door to play shortstop with the Blue Jays. But because other teams out there are going to be in the shortstop market, along with the fact that maybe he could play second base, I think his market is going to be very interesting. And also, with the Blue Jays, would they want to go with a long-term deal for Bichette after signing Vlad to the big bucks this past year? We'll just have to wait and see. Now, to me, the most intriguing free agent this offseason is Tatsuya Imai out of Japan. Now, of course, he does need to be posted first, but the expectation is he will be, and when he is, I expect a lot of teams to be in the mix here. He has a similar build to Yoshinobu Yamamoto, under 6 feet tall. Like Yamamoto, he brings great stuff. He has a good fastball in the upper 90s, while also flashing a lot of secondaries, including a slider and a changeup, while also incorporating a splitter and a curveball this past year, which both look very good. Another good thing about Imai is he throws a lot of strikes, shown by a 2.5 walk per 9 rate this past year, which has improved every year since 2020, and he racks up a good amount of strikeouts as well, shown by 9 strikeouts per 9 over the last couple of years, and 9.8 this past season. Overall, in 2025, he posted a 1.92 ERA along with a 2.01 FIP, so it looks like he's ready to move on to the major leagues at this point. Now, one intriguing thing with Imai is what is the contract going to look like? Now, he is a couple years older than Yamamoto was when he came over, so I don't think he's going to get the 12-year contract that Yamamoto got. And another thing with Yamamoto as well is he had a lot more success in Japan at a younger age. Now, to me, I think the sweet spot for Imai is somewhere in the 6 to 8 year range, since Kadai Senga and Shota Imanaga got deals around the 5-year length at an older age. Now, when it comes to the AAV, since both Senga and Imanaga got around $15 million per year, and with Imai being younger with good projections, I think somewhere in the $18 to even $20 million range makes sense. Couple that with the market bidding, say 10 to even 20% over, and I'll guess anywhere from 6 years, $130 million, to 8 years at $160 million. Now, when it comes to teams that I think would be interested, well, I think that list is going to be very long, but what I find interesting is it's going to give you an idea of what teams are going to be looking for. Now, like I said earlier, he throws a lot of strikes and has solid velo. However, he has a lower arm slot, which leads to a flatter fastball overall. Thanks to Lance Brzdowski for that. Go check out his video where he talks about the guys coming over from Japan. He has a fantastic channel. Please go subscribe to him. So I wonder if a team out there would like to try and get more out of that fastball. Now, when it comes to the lower arm slot, it actually leads to some interesting movement on his slider, which seems to go the opposite way, and his splitter and changeup both get a good amount of swing and miss as well. So all in all, I'm looking at teams here that first and foremost need starting pitching, have the money to invest, but also like swing and miss while having a history of getting more action out of fastballs, and could use an improvement when it comes to the walks. And I'm also thinking of the opposite as well, where teams have done well with the walks, but they could use more stuff in the rotation. Now, teams that come to mind that need starting pitching, can afford it, and gotten good spin rates out of their fastballs in recent years, but could also use more strike throwing are the Padres, Red Sox, Orioles, and even the Astros. Now, on the flip side, teams that have done pretty well with keeping the walks in check, but could use more stuff in the rotation, would be the Giants, Blue Jays, and the Tigers. And there's also the Cardinals, who I think could be a bit of a wild card, since they just turned the front office over to Chaim Bloom, who's going to be looking to take the pitching in a different direction, focusing more on stuff. So I know, kind of said a lot there, but I think this market is very interesting for Imai because of the money factor, but also how teams are going to view their pursuit for him. Go after him because they could get more out of the fastball while improving the walks, or the opposite, where teams already like his stuff as is and they just need to improve the strike throwing more in the rotation. We'll just have to wait and see. But everybody, those are my thoughts on who I think are the most intriguing intriguing free agents this coming offseason? Let me know what you think down below in the comments. Who do you think are the most intriguing free agents this offseason? Let me know. But everybody, that's all I got for right now. If you can on the way out, hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, and I'll talk to you next time.